Why is no one talking about this? A father that killed his own son, his own 6-year-old child, is absolutely shocking. You need to watch this and comment about the sentencing. What do you think? Do you think he's got what he deserves? Thank you.
Corey Micciolo is seen running on a treadmill, trying his best to keep up, while his father, Christopher Gregor, works out. As Christopher moves around to the various weight systems, Corey continues to run, never losing speed. Eventually, Christopher comes to check up on Corey, making sure he's keeping pace. He then stops by the boy's side, says something to him, and adjusts the speed of the treadmill. Corey is forced to run even faster. Once again, Christopher adjusts the speed, watching as Corey tries to keep up. Now he's sprinting, but soon he grows tired and his legs collapse. He falls back onto the ground, but Christopher forcefully pulls him up and places him back on the treadmill, forcing him to keep running. He falls again, but Christopher holds him in place as the 6-year-old legs buckle beneath him. Once again, Christopher adjusts the speed and incline, and Corey falls again. He tries to mount the treadmill again, but immediately falls back, landing on his front. It happens 3 more times. Christopher simply watches on, not even stopping to help his son. Just weeks after this frightful display of abuse, Corey would be dead. On April 2, 2021, the lifeless 6-year-old boy was rushed to a New Jersey hospital. His body was battered and bruised, his organs failing. Within an hour, he was pronounced dead. But the horror of what led to this child's demise was only beginning to unfold. Corey's short life had been marred by escalating abuse at the hands of his father, Christopher Gregor. In the months leading up to his death, Gregor subjected the boy to a twisted regimen of exercise and punishment, as seen in the gym surveillance footage. But the treadmill was just one instrument in Gregor's arsenal of torture. Corey's body told the tale of ongoing brutality: black eyes, bruises across his torso, cuts and abrasions in various stages of healing. His mother, Brianna Micciolo, had desperately tried to protect her son. She reported Gregor to Child Protective Services over 100 times in just 18 months. Yet somehow the system failed Corey time and time again. The day before Corey died, Brianna made a last-ditch effort to save him. She took him to doctors and pleaded for emergency custody, but her cries fell on deaf ears. A judge denied her request, sealing Corey's fate. Within 24 hours, the boy would be dead. On that fateful April morning, Brianna dropped Corey off at Gregor's home. It was the last time she'd see her son alive. Hours later, Gregor rushed Corey's limp body to the emergency room. The child was in critical condition, suffering from severe internal injuries. Despite frantic efforts to save him, Corey's little body couldn't withstand the trauma it had endured. He died just 60 minutes after arriving at the hospital. As Corey lay dying, Gregor's actions were chillingly callous. Security footage captured him collapsing dramatically into a chair outside the ER, as if overcome with grief. But the performance was short-lived. A mere 27 minutes before Corey was pronounced dead, Gregor calmly walked out of the hospital and drove away. The autopsy revealed the horrifying extent of Corey's injuries. His heart had been lacerated. His liver was torn, his lungs were badly bruised. This was no accident. Corey had been beaten to death in a savage assault. The medical examiner ruled it a clear case of homicide, but Gregor wasn't done running. 2 days after Corey died, police caught up with him over 800 miles away in Alcoa, Tennessee. Dashcam footage shows a visibly shaken Gregor claiming he had driven for 20 hours straight, turned around in Arkansas, and was heading back to New Jersey. His story made little sense. More tellingly, he was quick to deflect blame, ranting about Corey's drug-addicted mother, and bizarrely claiming she had framed him by planting marijuana on him in the past. As the investigation unfolded, the depths of Gregor's cruelty came into focus. This wasn't an isolated incident of rage. It was the culmination of months of calculated abuse. Gregor seemed to derive a perverse pleasure from tormenting his young son. The treadmill incident was particularly revealing. Gregor didn't just force Corey to run. He deliberately sabotaged the child's efforts, increasing the speed and incline to ensure he would fall. Each time Corey stumbled, Gregor roughly manhandled him back onto the moving belt. It was torture disguised as discipline. Corey's body bore the marks of ongoing brutality. Bruises in various stages of healing covered his small frame. He had suffered black eyes, cuts, and abrasions. The autopsy revealed internal injuries, both old and new. Gregor had been systematically breaking down his son's body and spirit for months. Perhaps most chilling were the psychological tactics Gregor employed. He didn't just beat Corey, he humiliated and demoralized him. As disturbing details emerged, the public was left to wonder how this could have happened. How did a father become so twisted as to torture his own child? What darkness lurked in Christopher Gregor's psyche? Some speculated that Gregor's motives stemmed from resentment over shared custody with Brianna. Others wondered if he harbored some deep-seated hatred for children. But the truth may be even more unsettling, that Gregor simply enjoyed inflicting pain and exercising absolute control over a helpless victim. The case against Gregor seemed airtight. The medical evidence was damning. There was video footage of his abuse. Multiple witnesses had seen signs of Corey's mistreatment. Yet Gregor's defense team attempted to spin an alternate narrative. They claimed Corey had died from a rapidly spreading infection, specifically pneumonia. This flew in the face of the autopsy findings and expert medical testimony. At trial, the prosecution painted a vivid picture of Corey's final agonizing moments. They theorized that Gregor had flown into a rage when Brianna returned Corey 14 hours late from a visit. In a frenzy of violence, he had beaten the child so severely that his heart and liver were lacerated. As Corey lay dying, struggling to breathe with his bruised lungs, Gregor delayed getting help. By the time he finally took Corey to the hospital, it was too late. The jury was shown the notorious treadmill video. They heard from medical experts who detailed Corey's extensive injuries. Former babysitters testified concerning incidents they had witnessed. The evidence painted a clear picture of ongoing, escalating abuse. Gregor's behavior after Corey's death further incriminated him. His hasty flight to Tennessee reeked of guilt. His attempts to blame Brianna and concoct elaborate excuses rang hollow. Most damning was his decision to leave the hospital before Corey was even pronounced dead. What kind of father abandons his critically injured child in their final moments? After a 4-week trial, the jury reached their verdict. While they stopped short of convicting Gregor of first-degree murder, they found him guilty of aggravated manslaughter and child endangerment. The conviction carries a potential sentence of 10 to 30 years in prison. For Brianna Micciolo and Corey's loved ones, the verdict brought a measure of justice. But it could never undo the tragedy of Corey's short, painful life. As Brianna wept in the courtroom, onlookers were left to ponder the systemic failures that allowed this abuse to continue unchecked for so long. The case of Corey Micciolo raises troubling questions about how society can better protect its most innocent members. How many red flags were missed? How many opportunities for intervention slipped by? And perhaps most chillingly, how many other children like Corey are out there, silently enduring torment behind closed doors? As Christopher Gregor awaits sentencing in August, the specter of his crimes looms large. The image of a father deliberately inflicting such cruelty on his own child is difficult to fathom. Yet cases like this force us to confront the dark potential that exists within human nature. They compel us to remain vigilant, to speak up when we suspect abuse, and to fight tirelessly for the safety of society's most vulnerable. Corey Micciolo's tragic story may have ended, but the quest for justice, both for him and for all victims of child abuse, continues. As we grapple with the horror of what he endured, we're left to wonder, how can we ensure that no other child suffers a similar fate? And what monsters might be hiding in plain sight behind the facade of loving parenthood?